Okay, Santi.
Homemade remedies to cure Griff's voice.
Honey and lemon.
That is
Yep.
excellent.
There we go.
So yeah, I'm actually an herbist, not to be confused with herbalist, which has a legal definition. But I don't know anything about herbs in Ecuador, or I would already have told you exactly what to do. But I'm planning to expatriate there, so I'll fix you up.
Take a good sleep and rest some days. That will be gone. The voice will be back soon.
And don't speak too much. Try to be just a point.
Make you pay in heavy for words.
What actually ask you were doing.
Yeah, you can do anything you want, but at the end of the day, you gotta keep your mouth shut, buddy.
I mean, I think the like fresh squeezed lemon, hot water, honey.
Yeah.
Add a little like fresh chopped turmeric and some fresh ground black pepper, and it can cure almost anything.
Pretty much.
That's my go-to for everything.
You guys, this is no good. I suggest right now you do the cinnamon challenge.
Oh, I thought you were going to say whiskey.
Right now, I want to see the cinnamon challenge.
Oh yeah, some scotch there. There you go.
Jake, I really had you for a whiskey recommender, not a cinnamon recommender.
You don't know the cinnamon challenge? You put a whole bit, you try and put as much dry cinnamon in your mouth as one time and try and hold it for as long as you can. And then your mouth explodes and you sneeze cinnamon everywhere and it's hilarious. The cinnamon challenge.
Is that a cinnamon stick you're nomming on there, Griff? Excellent.
That's not the same. I'm disappointed. Grind that up and snort it. I want to see you do that.
That's all I got.
You can exhale and
That
light
doesn't
it
look
on
like
fire.
it's good for your throat.
I'll try the honey and black pepper and all those things. I have honey. I'll have to go grab a lemon after the call.
Yeah, the lemon is important. I'm so sorry.
The not talking isn't going to be an option. I wish it was. I really wish it was.
It's like me not talking. Good luck with that.
Okay. Did Griff had his round? Does anybody want to throw a last advice in?
I want him to read a white paper now.
Okay. Okay, here we go to Sourcecred. So a few things that that we discussed in this call with Santi and Mateo is that it's really important for the whole community to be informed about how Sourcecred works. This could be like another added point of technocracy, so we don't want that. And they're going to write a blog post with a lot of great information that already exists, is pretty much done, about how Sourcecred works. And we were thinking about like how to measure the parameters, what do we need to have in there, and a few open questions came up. So before I jump into the open questions, do you want to introduce it a little bit, Santi or Mateo?
Mateo, you want to go?
Sure. What exactly do you want me to introduce, Livia? I didn't get it.
So how does the grain and the cred works? We can start with that.
Okay. So in a cute little analogy that I found on a GitHub issue, someone was saying that the Sourcecred graph is like if everyone has a bucket and there is some point in the week that there is raining. So we have an amount of rain that will be raining in that day. So everyone in a bucket will grab as much of water in the moment that the rain happened. So following that analogy, I like to think that red is all the water that will be flowing in a particular day, that we set up how much water will be flowing, and how wide or how big or how wide your bucket will be depends on how much you have collaborated in the system, in the project, let's say. So the automation that Sourcecred is offering mainly decides how much points or how wide should your bucket be by the end of a week, of a month, etc. Mainly a week in our case. So for every interaction that is happening in the main platforms right now, Discord and GitHub, we are removing Discord for now for some complexity issues. Some main interactions there offer you more points or more of a wider bucket than others. For example, if you make a post on Discord, will give you more points that are great than giving a like to a post, for example. So that's only CRED. CRED decides how much of a big how big of a bucket will it be. So when the rain comes, you will grab as much of the water. That's what CRED indicates. For grain, the difference between grain and CRED is that grain is the currency value or the token value that we're assigning to a certain amount of CRED. So we can say that for each CRED, you will have one TEC token, for example. So by the time that you end the week or the month, you can turn your CRED into the amount of grain that is assigned. Grain, in particular, is the token that Sourcecred is implementing, but that's just like an identifier. This identifier, we can rename it. Actually, right now in our implementation, you don't see grain. You actually see TEC test token, a little bit long, but the test part is what's important. So for a certain amount of credit, you can turn that into grain. That's a distribution that for now we decided it's happening for 2,000 grain a week. So that's the main difference between cred and grain. With your work, you get a certain amount of cred. That cred turns into grain when we decide which currency will it be turning. In our case, it should be TEC tokens, and the parameters in this case is what we should decide as a community. Livia, Santi, and I have made some not decisions, but has set some parameters based on what's regularly used on these platforms. And the other important parameter that we should decide is how much of grain we will distribute in a week. So for now, what it is right now, and that's what we should be discussing, is every week we will be distributing 2,000 tokens or grain tokens for the contributors that will be split as 50% will go for the recent week that your work happened, and the other 50% will go to all the other weeks since we are making accounting into Sourcecred. That is, I think, the first week of November, if I'm not wrong. So in that, what is solving is that everyone that is contributing will have some grain in the end, even though you didn't make much work in the latest week. So in our case of setting a parameter of 50-50, says that everybody is kind of getting as much as grain as possible, even though you did more work 2 weeks ago than the latest week. And we are also considering the work that someone new has made just the latest days. So yeah, I think I didn't miss something. Maybe Liv and Santi can add something up if I'm leaving something outside. I'm sure.
So I
Yeah,
just wanted to ask real quick. So the grain, the source of the grain is going to come from basically whatever the available funding pool from the bonding curve post-hatch, and that will be decided on as a parameter for how much weekly distribution. Is that correct?
That's not a parameter of Sourcecred. That's something we have to decide as a community.
Okay, so coming from the bonding curve, how much will go towards grain?
Yeah, basically there's two types of decisions. Okay, there's the parameters of the Sourcecred system, which we have set and can be changed anytime, and we're going to start with whatever we decided because we had to start with something. Okay, and we understand that those parameters should be reviewed by a group. In one hype is one swarm. Okay, we can call it a committee, we can call it a group of people dealing with Sourcecred, whatever we decide as a community. But we have to have the right to quickly adjust something if there's something going wrong. And if it's all of us voting, it's going to be hard. So it's better if we keep it under a group of people, a working group, whatever way we decide. Okay, but that's another issue. Now, on top of that, there's the decision of the 50-50. And depending on that parameter, everything changes. Right now, we have 50% previous periods, 50% recent period. No matter if that's a week, if it's 2 weeks, it's whenever we decide to give a period. Because initially saying every week, maybe it's not the best way to start. Maybe for whatever reason, especially at the beginning, we have issues here and there, and 1 week becomes 10 days, whatever. Let's call it a period, okay? Although it's good to think that it's going to be regularly distributed. And finally is the grain. The grain is what we distribute. And we can decide if 1 week if 1 week we give as a whole 10 TEC tokens, the next period we give 1, the next period we have dye because we had the donation of dyes and we're going to give dyes as grain, okay? We can decide whatever we want to distribute and whatever the amount we want to distribute. But what we think is that there's got to be a way, first, to request funds for Sourcecred from the main DAO, okay? And to decide how much, which periods, how we tweak, how we change, all right? So everyone should have the right to request a change or request a suggestion for a change in the community. But I think that the decision should be maintained between a group, a smaller group. Otherwise, it's going to be too hard to manage. And we propose with Libby that maybe because at the end, we're dealing with money, okay? With money, we're dealing with distributing money. So the people taking care of this maybe, and this involves Juanca, may be needed to go through some kind of whatever. I don't think they have to go through a graviton, but it would be nice if they'd be gravitons also, because it's people that under their decision, it's moving money here and there, and touching one lever can change things. And I prefer to make sure that whoever joins that team has gone at least to a code of conduct course or graviton or whatever we decide that they have to go through. So it's something to think about it. So those are basically the three main decisions.
I also wanted to add that these are the points where we start to touch the tangent with praise, because we thought praise so much already, and there are some of the solutions that we already have. So for example, for praise quantification, we found a temporary solution that is the people that have more praise are always invited to be quantifiers, and this adds a layer of trust, and it's transparent, and anyone can arrive to this place of having more praise. So one of the biggest challenges we have now is how to distribute the praise, how to distribute the impact hours post-hatch, because each proposal can't have multiple addresses to distribute all at once. And some of the solutions that we gathered from last time, most of them include someone handling someone else's rewards. So how can we avoid this the most? So we thought, oh, what if the impact hours could also enter as a parameter in Sourcecred and be distributed by the distribution engine of Sourcecred? So this would solve a huge problem of the post-hatch distribution, because Sourcecred would have all of these addresses to do it in an automated way. And we could still use the same committee for Sourcecred parameters as we use for praise. And then this would solve like many things at once. And just to add up, yeah.
I think it's really important that impact hours and Sourcecred are integrated. I think that's critical, because otherwise you have two groups not communicating perfectly, and it's the same thing. So good idea.
And then just to give a overview of like what this giant beast could mean to us and to the TC and other communities, is that with Sourcecred and praise integrated, we would have both a sense of fairness, and also we would understand what does the system is more interested in. So we're going to have a huge amount of data coming from these contributions of what is rewarded, and we would have a dashboard. So from this dashboard, we can see how contributions, if contributions are fair or not. So for example, Mateo worked so much this week, and then he's gonna see in the dashboard and his rewards are very low. So that is an information that our parameters are not right. So when we start having all of this information and have this committee or these people that can be rotative to constantly be like tweaking the parameters for them to be more and more aligned with the contributions that are actually happening, this will be a system to inform CAD even, that will be building simulations for other commons and for this commons, or for like where are the data they are gathering. So now we don't really have this place for all this data to exist. But then having this like praise that rewards very soft contributions, so all types of contributions, and Sourcecred that rewards more like on the grid contributions, will have this like great perspective.
Love it. You have summarized it really well. Any of you have some feedback? Nate, were you going to say something?
I was just going to clarify on two things. So, part of my kind of misconception is I don't have a real good understanding of how impact hours are derived, and it's kind of been an issue since I've gotten involved with the TEC. I'm not sure how they relate to praise and how you want to integrate it into Sourcecred. But the other thing I just wanted to clarify was what Santi was talking about earlier, was the 50-50 distribution. Is that just keeping with Mateo's analogy? Is that just saying that each person will have basically two buckets, and one will change size each week, and the other one will be a cumulative size bucket that just keeps getting bigger and bigger over time?
No, it's basically you keep contributing, okay? And the system just makes a distinction between the actual period and the periods before. Okay, and that is a way to compensate those that have been involved, for instance, for half a year, and then all of a sudden they decide to quit for whatever reason. Their contribution should still be rewarded because it's there and they were helping the development of the community. Now, if we want to reward with 50% or with 20% past contribution and 80% actual contribution, that's what we tweak, okay, to decide how much we give from the total distribution. Let's say we're giving away 10 TEC tokens, and for the amount of contribution, you get the right to get one, okay? That one is 50% of your past contribution and 50% of your present period contribution, or it's 20% from your past contribution periods and 80% from this period contribution. That's what that variable does.
And so those parameters can change ongoing?
Yeah.
They all can change anytime.
Okay.
We can decide anytime to change them.
Gotcha.
For example, we have Sourcecred implemented since November, but actually the first distribution of grain that we made was like 3 weeks ago. If these parameters were not 50-50, all the work that has been made since the first week of November would have been completely ignored and only would have been distributed the week of the last week of January, for example. So in the beginning, it always makes more sense to have a distribution of 50-50 just for past contributions, and somewhere in the way we can decide to make it a little bit lower.
And just to answer your impact hour question, so praise is dished, and then all this praise goes to a spreadsheet. And then every 2 weeks, the two people that have the highest numbers of praise or impact hours, they are invited to quantify this praise. So this quantification is a very manual and subjective process of reading each contribution and saying, oh, this deserves this amount of impact hours. This deserves this amount of impact hours. So by the end, there is an average made, and then this final impact hours number is computed with the previous contribution from every person. So now we all have like a score of impact hours that will turn into tech tokens, and then we'll receive the tech token. So the impact hour, it's almost like the cred, if I'm not mistaken, from Sourcecred. And then it would turn into a grain. It's like this bucket that will receive the tokens.
And so the idea is to both have a quantitative evaluation of work being done as well as a qualitative evaluation among your peers as well, correct?
Yeah, so really what Cred does is the automated version of collaboration that is happening that you can measure. The Sourcecred does that. And the praise hours are the objective, kind of subjective as well, value that someone has already been proven. So in this case, both of those values will turn into grain, but in the end, grain is another kind of currency if the distribution is happening in DAI or prime tokens or whatever. So in the end, both cred and praise is the same, but just the source that where it's coming from is different. One is automated and the other one is given peer-to-peer.
Thank you for clarifying all of that. I really do appreciate it because, yeah, I was having a hard time wrapping my head around the entire system of like how to integrate everything.
It's tough, man. We have been like 3 months playing with this, and that bucket analogy, I think, is the best way to explain it to everyone.
Yeah, so the questions we had that would be good to have a sense from everyone is like first, if we should have a committee, I felt from like no objections that this sounds good. Still gonna go through a proposal, but okay, cool. And then the second was how to deal with additional identities. And I think this, it came from Mateo, and I think it also touches on your post in the forum, Nate, that you talked about Bright ID or other types of identity integration. If both of you want to expand on that.
Yeah, so to make a little bit of more explanation in there, when the grain distribution, the weekly grain distribution has to be done manually by one of the administrators of the source code, let's say. So this grain will only be distributed to approved identities that the administrator has previously made into the source grid. So everybody that is getting grain has necessarily had to have a previous verification. So far, so now is only me and Santi and Livia who said, okay, this guy is true. So we merged the accounts, the different accounts between GitHub, Discord, and Discourse. Oh, not Discord, only Discourse. And we decide which entity is real. So let's say that today comes a new contributor. By the distribution, if it happens on Sunday, he won't get any unless I already added it to the implementation as a real identity. So this flow, I guess we need to find a better way to, of course, make it easier for the person that is contributing to know what he's getting into. Like, yeah, your identity is being considered in the source code, and you will be having the grain and then the cred, all of that. I see it as a onboarding issue. And the other part is that we actually know that this person has been contributing and is real, and he's not hacking the system somehow and getting the best of it without doing any work.
So is the only way to do it is just to have a whitelist of like a whitelist of addresses that committee or whoever is in charge of?
Right now it's the only way, and you have to do it manually, which in a way it's a little problem because you have to do it manually. But from the other side, the good point is that no one can just contribute and expect that they are going to get the reward right away.
So is there any way to create transparency around that?
Well, I think that the best way first is to let everyone know that they can apply, make sort of a form and make that public so anyone knows that they have, in order to get rewards, they have to fill in that form, giving us their handles, and somehow make sure that when someone fills that in, we right away introduce it, okay? Because it will be maybe one or two contributors every once in a while. So maybe we should generate a signal that some of us in that committee or everyone gets a notification of that, and we make sure that person is added before the next distribution is made.
So if there was like Bright ID, would this be automated or still not?
Not really. Bright ID would help us getting to know that this account is a real person and not someone faking it. But we should also have like, yeah, right, this guy was verified in Bright ID, so he gets more verification points. So that's all. Following the transparency issue that Nate was mentioning, the most transparent thing of this is that the source code info is available to everyone. So you can see everything, everybody that is in there and how much everyone is getting.
Yes, we forgot to mention that one of the things that we discussed yesterday is Sourcecred is a moving thing. So every time you keep adding, let's say if you check your profile, you see your overall cumulated cred from all the past. Okay, so what we've decided is to make a snapshot on every distribution, create a couple of graphs, or we still have to decide. So, and post that on a forum post every time we distribute. So although you will go and check the picture anytime and you will see right now this is the picture, if you want to see what happened on the past, you will be able to go over all those charts every time we distribute it, and you might be able to see, okay, I got this much on this distribution and this much on this one and this much on this one, or this other guy got this or that or whatever. So we're gonna create a history of snapshots of the distributions, because once they've passed, there is no way to grab that information.
And so with the graphs from Sourcecred, you can actually see like different anomalies, or catch things that you wouldn't otherwise see once it scales and you have a lot of people involved.
No, not really that you can catch them if it scales. It just, since it's a living thing, it just holds the information on every period and keeps accumulating. But once you distribute on the way it's created, the way you can see it right now because it's already online, and maybe Mateo can post the link on the Soft Governance text channel, so you see it. You see the picture of what's the amount that everyone's got right now. But if you want to see what was the amount 2 weeks ago, because I know that this guy wasn't joining the group yet and he wasn't here, I want to make sure this guy had 0 back then because he wasn't even here. Okay, the only way is if we keep track, making a snapshot through charts of every distribution. Okay, because it's like I don't know, to make the analogy, it's like a paint. Okay, you go and check and you see the final paint. But if you want to see how the paint was 2 days when the painter started painting, you don't have that information because it's finished.
Great analogy, Santi.
Yeah, painting is a beautiful analogy. I'm curious if you guys want to show off the dashboard. I'm sure people would be curious to see the complicated dashboard that exists. Or if you decided not to show that, that's also okay. But
I can show you.
Can you just share your screen, Mateo? Can you share your screen? Yeah.
Yeah, let me set it up.
While that's getting set up, the other thing I would, just like a small suggestion, is like maybe it's best to do the distribution in XDI, but then at the last minute, just throw it through the bonding curve, get the TEC, and then distribute the TEC at the current value, as opposed to holding TEC in the DAO or whatever ends up holding it. That way we can denominate things in.
That doesn't make any difference. We can decide what is the token that we distribute, and it can be different on any distribution. That doesn't make any difference at all.
I was just thinking like, oh, it's $1,000 every week or something. Right?
Yeah, that's actually something that's been an issue at OneHive, has been the changing value of honey, and I think that's an excellent idea if what you're concerned about is having a consistent payout as opposed to kind of gambling on your token value. It actually does make a difference, and it will come up as an issue if you don't have it tied to a dollar value. Santi, I was going to say that if you guys are interested, I know that there's people at OneHive that have really buckled down and started working on automating a lot of the stuff that Sourcecred hasn't managed to automate, and you might find some helpful people in the pollen channels over there that will that'll like help you smooth out the whole process.
For now, I know that they are implementing a CredDAO, they call, which implements the Aragon DAO alongside the Sourcecred, so the airdrop of the final grain distribution happens really smoothly. but it is not done yet. I guess that when that's ready, we can use it really great, because that would imply that all the the airdrop in the distribution, the real money distribution in the end, would happen more easily. For that, as far as I know, is that what they are working on right now.
Yeah, they're automating the sausage making part.
Yeah,
So,
another thing I
showing
wanna do. Sorry, Mateo. Another thing I think it'd be nice to do, and maybe YGG can help us on there. Once everything is up and running, there's a lot of insight that you can get just from checking at the data that Beast throws out. Just seeing and trying to intervene. Like, you have those levers, and if you think you want more, let's say you can gamify a little bit, you want more voting on the proposals that we post on the forum, let's get more rewards if you vote, things like that. We can try a little bit to extract the insight from all the information, and maybe tweak a little bit to try to force a little bit more actions in the direction that as a group we want to.
Yeah, so all the information is right now in the tccommons.github.io, that long link that we will show you in the channel later. But yeah, this is like all the credit that so far has been given since the first week of November. It's just numbers. So 12% has been given to girff, the 9% to YGG, etc. And you can check how the weight configuration is being right now. And also you can even compute your own distribution if you want to try and tweak and see how much it makes a difference. So you can see a lot of numbers, a lot of alpha and betas. We want in our post to make it really easy to understand, but an easy way that sometimes it doesn't make sense because it's quite complex is that alpha is you and beta is something else. So when you organize a sentence, you say alpha has something to do with beta. So in this case, for example, in discourse, alpha post replied to by beta is what a really complex way to word that phrase, but it's basically that beta or someone reply to your post. How much credit should be given to that person that replied to the post that you made? So in this case, it just has a multiplier of 1. So everything in here has a multiplier from 0 to, I believe, is 16 or 32. 32, yeah, it's 32. So in that case, you can like balance how much of the credit that is being constantly being distributed. If we come back to the analogy, is how much rain will be extremely being directed to a certain part of the bucket, let's say. So for example, in discourse, we are giving more importance to the likes than to the posts and the topics. So it doesn't matter that you make a post because you can write whatever, but it does matter how much likes you have gotten in that post. And in GitHub, we are currently giving more importance to the pull request and the pull request review. Anything else is kind of ignored, even if you make an issue or make a commit or just write a comment. So the weights of the edges below is just like the really specific detailed interactions that is happening in those platforms. So, for example, if you are giving 4x as a multiplier for the likes, we can focus on the interactions that are being happening around the likes, like you give a like or you receive a like. It's like the most basic one. So we don't have to get into more details, but it's nice for you to understand that this is all public and we can all see and play around with the numbers and see, and you can recalculate the credit and see how much it can interfere in the current numbers. Whatever you do here is only as an example, as the real data is happening through the admin implementation. So whatever we decide, me or Santi or Liv had to do it so far, or whatever person is currently having the instance. The other part in here is the create accounts that we here. I changed the name just to say that it's test, because it's not the real one yet. So for the previous distribution that is been happening so far, there is a T cred or grain. In this case, it's grain. We're not calling it grain, but T cred, that is a test. Linked to the grain, to the cred that was distributed. So for the amount that, for example, girff has gotten in here, that is 12% or 284 cred, he's getting 531 T cred. The earned one is based on if he already withdrawn all of the balance, or everything is in here yet. So everyone is in here. We have also the option to deactivate or activate accounts. Everyone in here is activated. And the other ones are people that are in the platforms but haven't really contributed anything for the past months, since November.
Nate, now you see what is important. Excuse me, Mateo. Now you see what is important to take a snapshot, because through this chart, through this scorecard, you cannot see what was the distribution 2 weeks ago. There's no way to know it. Okay. And also there's one leverage there that we're not mentioning. It's that girff got the best score, but when you lose your boys, you lose all your points. So too bad for him.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So for discourse, it seems so straightforward, but for GitHub, what are the actions that we want to encourage? Because pull requests are really software development focused and not necessarily contributor focused. I mean, dev contributors, but not contributors to the TEC right now.
I'm not really sure how much of the interaction is happening in GitHub, as I am not currently there or regularly there. But yeah, the main actions are these ones that are seen in the node weight. So we can decide for me, it doesn't make sense to give anyone praise for creating a repository, but sometimes it may be. So,
but
it's.
Yeah, I think a time contribution. I think time contribution to decide or to get her points on GitHub may be really valuable, because she really knows how everything's around GitHub, not from the development side, but more from the organization side, and maybe we want to encourage that, or we want to reward that, and we did on that when we were tweaking the parameters initially. But I absolutely agree that we probably want to play with 2 or 3 of those parameters to make sure that they measure.
And so, could you hypothetically integrate this with the DAO itself, and for like conviction voting and things like that, and reward people for actually participating in the voting process?
Not as it is right now.
Sourcecred is a very difficult thing to integrate with, is what I'd say. It's like we basically have whatever. And I believe there's only 3 options: Discourse, GitHub, and Discord. And Discord has been notoriously difficult to handle, and I believe that's why you guys took it out. I assume out of the scope, just because it's too hard. It's too easily gamed. And one day, hopefully, Sourcecred will integrate with Aragon. Fuck yeah, that'd be so cool. But it kind of requires the core team to actually make those integrations.
And also, is there going to be a kind of an overview of how these parameters are managed in terms of from a community input perspective / governance? I don't, just the process for it.
Yeah, that's what I was mentioning before. I think there's got to be a document that explains clearly how everything's measured, okay? And there's got to be a procedure put in practice where anyone can have the right to propose a change of a parameter. And then I don't know if that committee should take that and vote it, or we have to put a procedure in place for anyone to propose a change on any parameter and then listen to it. And if we decide as a group that we have to do it, we do it.
I think that's a great idea. I do think it's important that we follow more of the colony approach of like keeping decisions at the edges. Also the one hive approach, where it's like, you know, the DAO, the conviction voting DAO is macro managing, where it's like, oh yeah, here's funding, you're doing a good job. You know, here's funding. You guys request funding every 2 months or something like that. But then in the end, there is like a lot of value in the working groups, you know, and like you guys are in the thick of it. You have the best perspective. Be accountable and transparent, right? Be transparent, which brings accountability. Just because like if someone has a challenge, they have the tools and resources to make that challenge in an educated way. And then, but you guys got to be the ones making the decisions. I really hope that it doesn't evolve into every time you want to make a tweak, you have to do a Discord poll or something. Like it really should be that you guys are trusted to make decisions, and then you're accountable every so many months because you're going to be requesting funding. And if someone wants to start up a challenging group to also reward, you know, do the exact same thing, they can, you know. So
yeah, I like having these calls to be like a place for, like, even now, if this was a proposal, this wouldn't have passed because there would be so many like Tamara bringing a point, Griff everyone bringing a point, and then now in this space we can actually go together and talk about it and like, oh, I don't think this is reflecting what is happening, and then we can like change it and trust that we are the people that would be voting anyways.
And now you see that this is really a complex thing, and there's no way you can vote in just one proposal on the forum. We probably will have to put several of them explaining the different tool, the different aspects of the tool that we want to require for voting, and from, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those proposals, we're not getting all the insight from the community. But it's a really complex system. There's a lot of parameters there. There's a lot of things that you can play with, and it's important to have several of us, and not just the 3 of us, or basically the 2 of us, because we just shared with Believe 2 days ago. The more people that has an eye on that and understands absolutely all those parameters, the better.
You mentioned that there's a whitelist, or sorry, like a registry. Is that true? Right? And basically, if someone is determined to be gaming the system, they could just be removed, right?
Yeah. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like you see in my screen, there is the credit accounts that are currently active. We have the say of activating them or deactivating them if we see that something is being wrong. So if we go to the bottom of the list, there may be someone that is currently in every platform but haven't really made any real contribution, so he's not being taken account when the distribution is happening. So that's like sort of whitelisting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for this we would have to add a quick like code of conduct for Sourcecred, just to have an awareness of like, if you're having this or this behavior, or if you're breaking this and this code of conduct, we are allowed to just remove someone. Otherwise, this would have to be a proposal every time, and I don't think we need it. But to have it transparent in the way that, like, you know that if this and this are crossed, then it's okay to remove someone.
That's the yellow card or the red card. I mean, the very first moment you see that there's no text coming in, you realize you're messed up, buddy. You're gonna change.
Yeah, like GitHub issues, for instance, are very critical for the way that we organize, and they should really be rewarded because it's heroes' work to make a GitHub issue. But at the same time, someone can just come around and make really stupid issues and feel like they're making money, right? So we just need to be able to allow gameable situations, but then try to have awareness over people gaming it.
And it's also very important when we introduce changes to do it 1 or 2 changes at a time, no more than that, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult to measure what the impact of those changes is going to be.
So last few minutes of this call, I just want to understand what do we need to make this integration happen?
Cities, I would say. One is prioritize the opinion and say of Tam because she is the one that knows very well how the GitHub should be working in that aspect. So one for that, because before we go live, because we are already live, this would mean the first change of parameters, if there is any, that I believe that would be at least one. So that's important. And the second one is to decide how the procedure will work for the snapshots, the weekly or monthly snapshots, and all of main parameters in the beginning, that is how much TEC tokens or whatever tokens that we are called in the Sourcecred will be being distributed every week or every month. So it's just how Santi was mentioning, the real procedure of how this will be keep moving in time. So I think those are the two main necessities that we have right now for actually going live or more useful than it is right now.
So for the praise integration, it's not even a topic yet. Like we need this first, and then after we talk about that.
I wanted to mention, that we have the idea in our meeting that the integration of the praise and all of that, I saw it as a collaboration stack that we merge all of these data, and even CatCat would be having some of it to make some simulations, as Livia said. But for that, it needs more technical solutions, some more of an architecture of how can we finally check all of the accounts and merge it into one, and how we are going to connect to the praise bot and grab the information automatically. All of that, it has many conditions that cannot be solved in a week, let's say, maybe a month, maybe 2, I don't know. But for now, if we are currently having a correct procedure for the Sourcecred, integrating the praise and automating that part can be a little easier, but not really fast, I would say.
And then for that, you would need anything specific, or now just time? So now we just prioritize on point 1 and 2. That is hearing Tam's opinion and changing GitHub parameters, and then understanding how the snapshots will work. And then next week we can talk about how to start merging praise.
Yeah, I don't wanna give an estimation on that because I haven't checked how the praise bot is working, for example, and I want to see every little piece of the puzzle before actually saying something that and start to work. So in the 2 requests that we're asking, those are mainly for decisions and just get the numbers right, because everything is already working. and it's just a case of making some distinctions in the current implementation. And for the procedure is take maybe inspiration from other communities that already have something really cool. For example, MakerDAO has a really nice way of displaying the weekly, I believe it's weekly distribution. They say how much everybody's getting, if there is any change, etc. And they make it in the forum on Discord. So we can take that as an example of a very well done DAO contribution management and make it even better if we find a better way.
Hey, in respect to Santi, and only very few changes at a time, so you can see how results work. But at the same point with TAM, I've put a lot of work into the forum, and people do not just make posts, and people do not just comment. And the fact that the whole directive of the forum is to engage the community for further development and education of what we do here, to only reward likes and make it a popularity contest, is very discouraging. It's been a lot of work. And to think that the only thing people are going to get out of that is if somebody likes their post. When some posts aren't really, they're not entertaining. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be educational, So we have to kind of rethink our process on that too, because otherwise nobody's going to want to contribute if it's just a popularity contest. They'll just like what they want to like and who they want to like.
I see your point, and I think we gotta. Well, that's the key of any DAO. Trying to engage everyone, especially as time goes by. And I agree completely that you put the effort of writing and doing all the research or whatever you have to do before posting, and then you finally post, and you don't want people to just answer because they get extra points and not because they really jump into the meat of the post. That's what you're posting. And I think we have to find a midpoint there, and probably use any single tool that we can to make or try to get people involved in the process. Okay, and we have to try everything that we can. I agree that we initially, before we start, and we may even test a couple of periods, we can add some changes. What I don't think is good is once we are already up and running, from one period to another, introduce a lot of changes, because then we lose insight and we don't see why it's changing the final result. But before, on the very first, if we want to introduce 3 or 4 or 5, let's do it. That's why we're here for, discuss, and if we understand that we have to tweak some of those parameters, and it's 6 of them, let's do it. It's later on that it's much better to just do it one at a time, which is 1 or 2 per period, if we still think that we have to change them. Because until we really give money, this I don't know if you guys have ever traded, but this is like trading. Okay, you're playing with paper money, everything is fine, you feel great, you're doing awesome. Then you put $1 into that account, and everything changes completely. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. When people start seeing that they're getting, some rewards here and there, the behavior changes completely. So we don't want to mess around with the beast a lot once it's running. That's my point.
And I wanted to end that part following that the real measure of value in the ideal world is getting right what is objective value and what is subjective. And I believe in our case, by the time that we find a way to integrate praise and this, that middle ground will be a little bit more tangible. So whatever the effort on making a post or everything can be really given value by saying that this work was very well done, but the objective or the value that can be automated is more certainly likes, because it's the only way that we can make a computer to say that your post is having some attention. So finding the middle point of what is objective value and what is objective value is what will solve the problem that we are trying to help you here.
Yeah, we're on top of the hour. I just want to give a suggestion to wrap this topic up. I know most of us haven't had the chance to look at these parameters and in places that we are very active. So I think probably a lot of people have a lot to say. We could schedule a hack session this week to look into the parameters and invite the people that have been most active in each one of the channels. And then we go through it and we have like a wrap up to give it to the next step, that is the implementation. And then from there, we take a step back on changing the parameters for a little bit.
Livia, can I just ask a real quick question? So it sounds like we're not implementing the Sourcecred on Discord at this time, so I don't have to worry about that? Okay.
No Discord at all.
Excellent, thank you.
Olivia, I think that's a fantastic idea.
Awesome. Jake, do you want to schedule the session?
Well, I can, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because that actually works out well because I have a working call. We're not doing much on Wednesday, so I can make this kind of fun. Okay.
One quick thing. Griff, very long time ago, mentioned about like all the Sourcecred go to the price quant, and then we could add what Jake was mentioning, we were talking about gamifying this, but if instead of giving directly the rewards to the people, it went through the quant, would it help to, for example, reward the GitHub issues creating and reward when someone is creating posts, so it's more engaging, and at the same time we avoid the gamification because we are quantifying it, and if someone is creating like stupid posts, we are not going to, we will know it. I know what we are in the top of the hour, so.
Yeah, I'll make this call and we can go over all those there.
Good. Perfect.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank